Quin, down the stretch, you usually go with Rudy. Tonight, it looked like he was about to go back in, and he didn't. What happened in that conversation? What were you thinking there?
I asked him what he wanted to do, and he said let him go. You know, he was, Faye was playing good. You know, we were going to give him another minute or two and get Rudy back, and Faye continued to, you know, to help us. The team was, you know, we were coming back, and it's a credit to Rudy. And I know how competitive he is, and usually that means, I mean, I know he wanted to be in there, but also, you know, your ability to put the team in front of yourself, and, you know, he did that, and that's something, you know, Epe played 3 minutes tonight. Jonas didn't play in the second half, you know. Everybody's in those situations at various times, and if you can, you know, do the difficult thing and try to put the team in front of yourself, you know, everybody's better for it, but it's hard to do, and Rudy did it tonight.
Coach Eric, we are being down 13 in the fourth, you know, and having so many guys from Derek Favors and particularly that last stop by Wes O'Neal. Talk about the grit you guys showed in the fourth quarter to really fight back and close the game out strong.
Well, you know, this is one of those games you're fortunate to win. You know, things, you have to catch some breaks. And I think, you know, we just continued to compete is really all it comes down to. And when you do that, you put yourself in a position to catch a break. And that happened tonight. And, you know, we had some guys make big plays.
Especially Royce O'Neal at the end there defending both Kyle Anderson and Manu. What did you like about what he did on that defensive possession? And then what did you, I saw you kind of confront him at
yeah, he stayed disciplined. And those are the times when it's hardest to do that. And Lamar Skeeter shot faked him probably 500 times this year, trying to get him not to leave his feet. And you know, it's something that we talk about. And you know, particularly when you want to stop and you're wound up and you're intense and you're competing. You know, oftentimes, you know, that's when you go for a fake and foul. And you know, he's been really good. And I think I said before, he got on the court because he guarded. But that, you know, being disciplined in that situation is hard to do. And that's what I told him. I was proud of him.
Donovan's had the ball in his hands for a lot of those final minutes. In what ways are you kind of seeing him grow, especially over the last two nights? How have you seen
Donovan, him? You know, we didn't do a very good job making reads in pick and roll. And Donovan struggled throughout the game in those situations. And, you know, I think in spite of that, you know, he kept coming, and I thought, you know, obviously he got better as the game went along, as he started to find a little more rhythm. And that's what you have to do to get better. You know, that's what teams have to do is, you know, when you're struggling in any way, you try to figure out why and correct it. And sometimes it's hard to do that during the course of a game. You know, and usually you have to wait till the game's over and look at it. And you know, he got more comfortable in those situations late and was able to make some plays when we really needed him.
You've played a lot of games in a short amount of time. How are you able to fight through the fatigue, especially, I mean, this team's kind of shorthanded, you know, players-wise at this point?
Yeah, I mean, both teams, obviously, and that's why they're, you know, who they are, and they've been, you know, the best team in the NBA for, you know, 2 decades. It's, you know, it resonates from Pop, and, you know, for us, you know, it was a different type of game. You know, we've talked about, you know, trying to win different ways and different situations, different circumstances. So this was different than last night. You know, last night was different than, you know, other games. So we have to learn how to compete through whatever the case may be, whether it's some level of fatigue, which I don't want to cave to that, because I think if we're physically tired, we have to be mentally tougher, and that's tried to talk about that tonight, just the mental part of the game.
When they are dropping in pick and roll like that in the second half and staying attached on the perimeter as well, what do you want your players to do in those situations? I
can give you a list of 5 things, Andy. That, you know, we can drive and dive. We can flip the angle of the screen and cut back. We can hold them on your hip and keep them in the middle of the lane. We can attack the big downhill, and we can nash. So there's a sequence of reads that, it's difficult. It's easy for me to sit here and say that stuff. Those are the things that, say, Donovan and Joe and those guys are working on. And Joe's developed a floater, which is, when they're back, sometimes you got to take the floater. We don't just want to settle for mid-range jump shots, but sometimes that's all they give you, and that's what Donovan had late in the game. So, all those things are relevant. When you play against a team that's as good as they are defensively, those reads become more difficult. It's really easy for me to sit there and say, oh, you should have done this, or you should have done that. Those guys have, players up in and pressuring them, and it's hard to do. And we weren't very good at it for a certain portion of the game. That's part of the progress of the team. I thought we tried to attack too much, just 2-on-2, and that's a credit to them and how good they are defensively. So the ball wasn't able to move as much, and that makes it hard.